Hey guys, what's going on? In this video, we are doing a plus 21 Underrot. So we're going to be recording this in 1.5 times speed, so that way it doesn't take too long. And so throughout this video, I'm going to explain the mob mechanics and the dungeon affixes as well. So quickly, I'm just going to explain these mobs, and then I'll get to the affix later. The blood matrons, these big mobs, basically they'll do a front charge, and then they'll do a savage cleave, which is a frontal. If you get hit by that, you get a nasty dot on you. Then they'll also cast war cry, which increases all units around them their haste. So you can't really do anything about that, but yeah, basically just dodge the frontal, and that's about it. The next one is going to be the Blood Priests. They cast something called Gift of Gahoon. Basically, what that does is it prevents that unit from dying as long as the buff is active. And you can just purge that off or kick the cast. And then they'll also cast, I don't know what it's called, but it's a full heal. It's like Reconstruction or something. Anyways, it'll full heal any unit it's targeting, so just interrupt that as fast as possible. And then on to the next thing here, we got this mask. Harrowing Despair. Basically just kick it. If it goes off, it's going to massive AoE. And then it also casts Dark Omen, which you can't interrupt or do anything. Just pop a defensive and hope your healer will heal you through it. So before we get to the boss, I'll explain the affixes. We got Fortified, Storming, and Bursting. So Fortified makes the trash mobs do even more damage and have even more health. It's one of the starter affixes. Then we got Storming, which, as you'll probably see them around. Tornadoes will spawn and circle around targets. There's one spawning there. It'll knock you up and deal some damage. Avoid them as much as possible. Other than that, it's not a big pain in the butt. And then we got Bursting. This one's the real group destroyer. Basically, every time a unit dies, every time a trash unit dies, it's going to put a dot on the whole group. Now it is magic, so you can dispel it, but every time a new one is applied, it adds one stack and refreshes the duration. So try to avoid rolling it if the dot is at 1 second. Just stop attacking any mobs if you can. Anyways, onto the boss mechanics. Gonna cast Creeping Rot, which is a green frontal. See it? It'll be in front of her, and then it'll go in a straight line. And then she'll spawn a mirror image or a blood mirror. Basically, that'll do the same thing she is. And then also you want to be interrupting Blood Bolt all the time because it puts a dot and an absorb shield on your tank or whoever it hits. Be pretty nasty. And then basically dodge the Sanguine Feast because she'll teleport and do a circle around her. Onto these mobs, we have the Living Rot, which just drops puddles all around the floor. And just watch out for the green swirlies. And then you got the Lashers, which put a disease. Well, they cast something that puts a disease absorbing healing and causing a stun on the target. You can either just dispel it, but it is better to just interrupt. And then you got these feral blood swarmers. These are the real pain in the butt. They fixate on somebody and just run after them. No matter how far you go, they'll charge or try not to go too far because if you get too far away from them, they do charge at you, which will cause them to be right on top of you right away. So just try and stay in a relative 15 yards of them. And then we'll have these maggots. Basically, they'll cast a bile, rotten bile. The only way to interrupt that is to knock them up or stun them or something. Basically, as you can saw, the frontal goes off. If anybody's in it, they're gonna die. Simple as that. Nothing you can do about it other than just don't be in front of it or interrupt it somehow. So, as you can see, Das died, augmentation evokers. But yeah, the blood swarmers are the real thing to watch out for. They're very difficult to deal with, especially on fortified week. you do a lot of damage. And yeah, it's don't if you're tanking, try not to pull two of them at once. Really can get out of hand. As for being a shaman in here, there's nothing too special you can do. There's no unique tricks or anything like that. Poison Cleanse Totem doesn't do anything in here. Other than that, keep Purge on hand in here because the Gift of Gahoon is purgeable, and then up the road we'll have some skeletons here that will give themselves an Absorb Shield. I don't bother purging it when they're high. I only purge it if they're low, just because you're bursting at the start, so those shields are just gonna get annihilated. It's not worth the globals, in my opinion. But this worm here, it'll do Void Spit, which you kind of want to interrupt. It doesn't do a whole lot, but the big one is Dark Echoes, I think it's called. Basically, that'll cause an AoE and possibly wipe the group if it keeps going off. But yeah, the thing to watch here is for the healer, the Death Speaker puts a magic dot on somebody, and basically it's gonna shred their HP. You'll see me die to one some point, I think. Yeah, I think it's this one. I'll die to it. He just forgot to dispel me. Yeah. As you can see, my health is just getting torn down. It does like 40% of your health in one tick. It's pretty nasty. Yeah. It's brutal. And there I go. And we even said in chat that it was his bad. It's a pug healer, so the ones I'm actually running with are Das, the TM Sid, and Grumpidin. They're part of my group. We are struggling to find a healer. I'm usually the one healing, but I'm on a Mistweaver Monk, which I've been messing around with, so you might see some videos come up with that soon. But anyways, for Krogtus, this is the biggest pain in the butt in the whole dungeon. Basically, he's going to do something called a charge. I guess it's called a charge, so it is a charge. Anyways, basically, he charges forward. You want to try and run him into the wall and not into the middle of the room, mainly because it's the amount of distance he's going to cover, which means less damage uptime. But throughout this fight, every time he casts something or does his trample, he's going to drop little maggots. As you can see, if you just run over them, you step on them and crush them. If they spawn, whoever they attack gains a dot, but also on death, they explode. So they're not very nice to deal with, but they're also not a huge group wipe if one or two come up. If the whole set of them come up, well, you're probably wiping. They get pretty nasty. Other than that, don't be in front of him because he does cast something called Indigestion, which is a tank mechanic, and it's a frontal. If you get hit by that, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be dead. The other one time that you survive is probably because you have a cheat death. But yeah, other than that, if you can just get those mechanics, it's just keeping on top of those maggots. Other than that, he's definitely the longest boss in the dungeon because of the way he's built. Onto these two defilers. So basically, they have 2 casts, and they're both very important to interrupt. One is Shadowbolt Volley, basically an AoE damage that hits the entire group. The next one is the Curse that you see on us. Basically, that is a channel, and it reduces your damage dealt and increases your damage taken per stack. The longer they channel, the more stacks you get. You get out of hand, and you can wipe the entire group. But on to Caller Sancha. So this guy is the biggest pain in the butt if you have a full melee group like we do. And the reason for that is because of a mechanic. You have to, if you get an arrow above your head, you have to run that eruption and stand near some mushroom. Basically, when you see the swirly under your feet, you gotta move out of the way. It won't kill you, but it will do some serious damage and knock you up into the air, so it's not very nice. But if you don't destroy all these mushrooms, basically you'll see it. He'll do Festering Harvest, and basically what that does is an AoE effect, but it also erupts every mushroom that is active at the time. And if those mushrooms go off, you gain a dot per mushroom, and it is pretty nasty. 1 dot isn't so bad. It is definitely healable. 2 dots is a bit more than someone should handle, to be honest. But they are a disease, so you can dispel them. I also believe if Festering Harvest goes off while some mushrooms are active, I think it does even more AoE damage. Could be wrong on that. It could just be the dot hitting you. But anyways, yeah, this is considered the easiest dungeon in the season. There isn't too much difficulty in here. Not like everything is avoidable. Everything is interruptible, right? So as you saw, Dark Echoes, that got 1 tick off, and we went down to 40%. It is a nasty cast. The Void Spit only hits 1 target, doesn't do all that much. But yeah, this is the easiest dungeon, and I think it was also the easiest dungeon in BFA when this was first out. So it's not difficult at all. But as you can see, Das almost died to that dot. The healer has to pay attention and interrupt that. So if you are a healer, watch for it. There is no warning. I believe there used to be in BFA, but it would be nice if there was a DPM warning or something that went off and you have to dispel them. Because it doesn't take long for somebody to die to that, to be honest. Anyways, on to these Fearless Corruptor guys. Or Faceless, sorry. The octopus face. Basically what they're going to do is spawn some tentacles around you, get away from them. They slap the ground. Abyssal Reach, that's what it's called. And then it'll probably kill you. Stand in it. And then they do Maddening Gaze, which is a frontal. It's very difficult to see exactly where it is going, but just judge it based on where they're facing. Basically, if that hits you, you get feared and take a lot of damage, so just watch it. This is probably the hardest pull in the dungeon. There's 2 of these guys, so you gotta really watch for tentacles, and then you also have to interrupt this worm. It's a real pain in the butt. And then you have this wall here being annoying and messing with your camera. So it's really it really is the hardest fight in the dungeon, in my opinion. Other than the Krogtusk boss. Out of the trash, this is the hardest spot. And then once this dies, we go down to the final boss. And he's not too difficult. There is quite a bit of AoE damage for the healer to deal with. Other than that, DPS just have to position properly. And yeah. So as you'll see, we start off. His health technically doesn't go down. His energy bar fills up. Basically, all damage you deal fills up the energy bar. And then he spawns 2 things that our buddy there will deal with later. Anyways, Vile Expulsion, that's a frontal. You want to face it to the wall, mainly because every time he does that, he's going to spawn that grace puddles. So you really don't want to be aiming that to where you want to go. You want it to the wall or back where you came from. Over time, the gray puddles will form into a ball and start moving towards you. And I'm not sure if I died to one in here, but I died to one in one of the runs. Didn't even see it, to be honest. But yeah, they're kind of a pain in the butt. If you have like a chain lightning or multi-shot or barrage or something like that, it takes care of them. They only take 1 hit to die. So as you saw, those blood visages, the gold guy will take care of them. So don't worry too much about them until the final set come out, which will be here. Then once the last two have spawned, if you kill those, the boss dies, and that's the end of the dungeon. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Yeah, see, I died to one there. I didn't even see it. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Hopefully it helps. I'm gonna keep doing this until all the dungeons are cleared, and then I'll start posting regular ones and maybe help with anything you guys might want or anything. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.